Hi guys, you're back with Juzzy. Today we are doing an install of the genuine Diablo front engine guard Rb0010 for a 2019 Honda Rebel 500. So this is my friend's bike, which I've previously done a tail tidy and rear indicator install for. And yeah, we've got a little video which I'll cut to in a minute, which was taken a few days ago, which shows a comparison of this genuine Diablo front engine guard to one that was purchased from AliExpress. Hey guys, so here we have the genuine Diablo front engine cover, as well as one beside it, which is from AliExpress. And so I just wanted to talk about what the differences are so that people don't get caught out. So at the moment, my friend's in the middle of a dispute process to try and get her money back because the seller hasn't sold a product which basically was so safe to use, and it's just missing a few key components that the genuine product has. So if you have a look at my video where I installed the front engine cover on mine, this new Diablo part has all the similarities, and I'll just show you what the difference is between the AliExpress one. So what we're looking at here is the front right side of the genuine Diablo cover. And so as you'll see, it's got this reflective tape with basically it stops the heat from warping the plastic. And if you have a look down here, so this is the right side of the bike. So this is where the exhaust headers go back towards the muffler. And when the AliExpress one was bought, it came with no bracket like the Diablo one has. So the Diablo one has a hole there that you can bolt this into, and then it spaces out the engine cover away from the headers. This one, as you can see, we had to Dremel out this because it was basically a continuation of this part all the way out here, and all this part here was touching the exhaust header, and if we didn't Dremel it out, then it was just going to melt. And so we thought that even though it wasn't a genuine part, we were going to get away with it. But unfortunately, there was lots of fitment issues because it might have had a number of molds before this one was made. But where it did actually warp was the top of this front piece here. So if you have a look at this, you'll see that it's warped at the top there. And the reason for that is because on the inside of the engine cover, it again, on the genuine Diablo part, has this heat wrap reflective sort of heat shield stuff. So the non-genuine one doesn't. And also the genuine part has these threaded cylinder mounts, so that when you go to screw in the side pieces to this front part, that all the screws will sit nice and flush. So if you have a look there, it can't go wrong. It's all hot glued in from the back, and there is a threaded cylinder there. So I'll just undo that just to show you. And also this one uses threaded bolts, whereas the non-genuine one doesn't have any cylinder in there, and so it just relies on a threaded screw. And the screw, because these holes don't line up perfect with the side engine parts, when we went to screw it in, the face of a screw didn't sit flat with all these pieces, and it just sort of protruded out on an angle. And yeah, so then the last thing, so this side is the radiator hose side, so nothing here can melt. But what I could probably show in terms of comparison is the finish we found with this one, and you don't really know until you can see it by side, but the casting just kind of looks a bit rough on the inside. It doesn't really matter because it's only the outside that you see. But when we turn this over and we have a look, you'll see that the the edges of the part aren't smooth, whereas on a genuine item they're perfectly smooth. And what's may not be so visible in the camera, but it is in person, is that the black matches the OEM Axis metallic grey a lot better than what a non-genuine part is. Oh yeah, and also on the side of these fairing parts, the bolt hole, because in AliExpress they don't want to spend money on bolts, they just made this hole really big so that you reuse your factory bolts that are used for the radiator. Whereas on the KSPEED part, they make the hole smaller, and so they give you a set of bolts with washers, and so therefore that allows the side engine cover to be spaced out from the actual radiator cover, and then that stops any unnecessary rubbing and basically scratching anywhere on the bike. So yeah, the key things again: the heat wrap, the finish, the screws, the tapering in of the edges where the exhaust manifold are, having a hole on the bottom of the genuine part to facilitate this bracket so that there's absolutely no chance for anything to touch even a manifold or the bike, is what sets apart this genuine Diablo part. Okay guys, so with the genuine Diablo front engine cover, the first thing that is easiest to do is to actually install this bracket. Now, underneath the bike here, there is a little part on the front of the pan that has a location to attach this bracket, and you'll see it as a hole there. So what you need to do is just feed this bracket up like this and above the headers, and then underneath here you'll see that this hole lines up with that little slot. This bracket is used to space out the fairing so that you don't have a heating issue, and so that your radiator hose doesn't get ruptured from the plastic hitting against it. So I'll go ahead and feed that bolt through now, and then we'll resume. Alright, so now I've affixed this bracket to the slot in front of the belly pan there. So the next step is we have to undo these two bolts on either side of the radiator. So this is just a Allen key bolt that can be undone by hand, and it is used to keep this plastic cover on the radiator. So the top one is slightly shorter than this bottom one, and that's because the bottom one has the rubber grommets in here to keep it from rattling. So you can see here they are a collared bolt, and when you go to affix the fairing onto this radiator part, you can't actually reuse the factory bolt because the collar is too wide for the hole, and so KSPEED gives you these bolts to use instead. So as you can see, you've got a bolt, a lock washer, and a washer itself, and all those three parts together are then used to bolt in on top of this radiator cover. So it does use a different sized Allen key. So sometimes lining up these bolts can be a bit temperamental, particularly for the bottom bolt, but you just have to take your time, and because you can't see where the bolt's going because this fairing's on top, you just have to literally go easy and just have a feel for it. Otherwise, if you do the bolt up too tight, you'll stuff the thread. So that's just gone in nice and easy, so I can let that hang loose now. I'll get the second one. Okay, so just the spring washer, then the washer. Again, if you can, just try to put your hand underneath here to pull the radiator cover back, and then you'll be able to see that you're pretty close to lining it up. So I can feel that's starting to turn now. This one's a bit harder because there's rubber grommets in there. So you can, if you're confident that it's threading right, which this one is, then you'll be right to go in. Now, the fairing goes underneath the actual bracket. So the bracket is on the inside. So you don't want to do these bolts up too tight because you have to fit the centerpiece, the front engine cover, in, and you need to have some flex in this piece to get it in. So now that I've just got that in position here, we'll go to the other side. Now put the bolts on the other side of the bike, so we're now ready to put the front part onto the bike. So the way that this is supposed to be installed is from behind of these two pieces. So it's much the same as the one that I've got on mine. And good thing, as we were saying in the video from the other night that we cut to, is that these bolts are all centrally located because they've got a cylinder pushed inside that's threaded, so you can't go wrong. Whereas when you install the non-genuine ones, there's no threaded cylinder there, so when you screw in, the face of the bolt is never flush with the actual piece. So this is good. Bruce is putting his best suit on today. These bolts on the sides of the fairings up tight, and that's because we needed to manipulate or spread them across so that we could fit this part in behind. So as you can see now, there's plenty of room to move these around and get this in here. So now that you've got that in, you just simply need to proceed with hand tightening all of these 6 bolts, and I'll show you what it looks like when we've got it all tight. Right guys, so I've hand tightened all 6 of these bolts, and every time you tighten one just loosens up a bit, so just go around and check all of them. The last step of this process is to slot the nut and bolt through from the inside of the fairing, and then you've got the job completed. So we'll cut to a shot of the whole bike once we've done that. Okay, so now that we've put the bolt on either side of the fairing, the last step is to do the 2 bolts on either side of the radiator. So because there's rubber grommets on the radiator, this will allow for a lot of room for movement. So yeah, you've got to get all the plastic parts first, and then the last part is to do the side fairings. You never want to tighten anything because A, the plastic can end up cracking, and then B, you might end up de-threading the bolts. Okay guys, so check it out. So we've got a new suit for Brucey. Everything's proper. So the KSPEED part, everything fit perfectly. So there's no issues in terms of what we experienced with the non-genuine item. So as you can see here, the bracket allows for a lot of spacing so that A, you don't have the fender touching the exhaust manifold. So there's easily 2 fingers worth there. Whereas with the non-genuine item, we had to Dremel out because A, there was no bracket, and B, the plastic was just flinging about. Same thing on this side. So without the bracket, the fairing can rub against really hard against the radiator hose, whereas this one keeps it spaced out, so it's not forcing against the hose in any way. So as you can see, everything lines up. You have a look at every bolt here on the front of the engine cover, and every bolt sits flush. As you can see there, everything's perfect. So yeah, unfortunately we did an install for this bike with the non-genuine part a few weeks ago, and when my friend got home, the plastic had warped here, and she could feel heat from the plastic melting on the exhaust manifold. So that's not going to be an issue now, and yeah, we'll just do the walk around. So it looks really cool. The bike without the front engine cover just looks so naked, and now it's actually, it's like it's got a front suit on. So here it is from the side view. So the gap between the tyre and the front engine cover is just totally gone. So that side profile looks so cool with the pointed down part down there. I don't have much room to show you from this side, but in terms of what you see when you sit on the bike, so from the tank, there's nothing protruding, as you can see. When you have a look down here, there's nothing in the way of where your feet go. So everything's out of the way. It doesn't annoy you in any way. And there's no weird sounds that come from it as well. So if you've got any questions about this install, please feel free to comment. There'll be some further installs in another video, probably in a week or two's time, where we do the front indicators, still waiting for those, and there'll be a swap from these rear ones which weren't bright enough. Anyway guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. Bye for now.